The system.
What's up, guys? This is JCTV here, back in again with another video, and today we're going to be talking about who is my favorite wrestler. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. I'm going to have to give it to Randy Orton. Randy Orton over the years has just solidified being my favorite wrestler in wrestling. Some of the things I do like about Randy Orton are his heel work. His heel work has always been great. He's always been a good bad guy for the good guy to overcome. Some instances of that is the WrestleMania 25 storyline with Triple H when he was punting Vince McMahon and all them in the head week after week after week. Even back when he was the Legend Killer, when he would just put down Legend after every week, and it would just make the fans angry, and that just showed good storytelling from him. And then another one that I like to bring up is the era with Daniel Bryan, so 13 and 14. He did really good work there, being the bad guy for Daniel Bryan the Conqueror, and that was his best work, I think, for a while until recent years. But he's really good at being a bad guy and good storytelling when he does so. Now, his style in the ring is something I like a lot, and I'll tell you why. After a while of seeing the flips into tricks and all those moves, it just gets old. And I sometimes just like seeing the fundamental basics of wrestling. I don't always like seeing the flips and tricks, and that's kind of his style, and it hasn't changed over almost 20 years, and that just kind of makes him timeless. His style in the ring hasn't changed much, and he hasn't showed any signs of slowing down. He wrestles just as good as he did almost 20 years ago. He's cleaned up his act more, because obviously when you first start wrestling, you're not the cleanest of wrestlers. It takes time to master. Another thing being timeless is he's always kept us all glued with good storytelling. That kind of goes back to my first point. But he always has kept us eyes on the screen, if you will. He always did that, and he always draws you in, and it's always been like that. He's done that for almost past 20 years, and he's always been one of the things you've always want to watch about wrestling, and he's always been the most interesting thing in my eyes in wrestling since CM Punk left. But he was always the thing that draws you in. He's always been the bad guy that you want to watch, and sometimes he is the babyface that you see topple one of the bad guys like Big Show or whatever have you. Some of my favorite eras of Randy Orton are obviously the Legend Killer era, back in the early 2000s, where he's putting legend after legend down every week. I really enjoyed watching that. Also, another era I enjoyed watching with Randy Orton was the Legacy era. That's when I got into wrestling, but I've since watched mostly all of the eras of Randy Orton. But the Legacy era was interesting to me because he took two apprentices and tried to drive them to superstardom with his lessons and all that, and then obviously came to head at WrestleMania 26, which was a good storyline, that they went from being his mentors to being his enemies, which the storyline didn't really make sense at WrestleMania 26, but I did like the era of Legacy, how he mentored both of them. Now, one did go on to superstardom, the other one just retired, but yeah, that's one of my favorite eras of wrestling. So Randy Orton is my favorite in wrestling. Who is your favorite in wrestling? Put that in the comments below. And this has been JCTV, and peace out.